This afternoon's keynote speaker is a Texas leader for education, civil rights, and economic development and fair taxation. He's a legislator who recognizes the need of all citizens who have the opportunity and ability to build a better future. And to achieve that future, he believes it is a fundamental need for all Texas residents to have equal access to a quality education. Before joining the Texas Senate, Senator Ellis served 3 terms on the Houston City Council and as Chief of Staff to the late U.S. Congressman Mickey Leland. He's a public servant who advocates in the best interest of the greater Houston area and its residents. Please welcome Texas Senator Rodney Ellis. Senator Ellis, thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, Trustee Sani, and congratulations to all of you graduates. You are about to go off the family payroll. You are about to get a pay increase, right? I want to welcome the new chancellor here. This is his first week on the job. We're glad to have him here. Give him another warm round of applause. One of his colleagues, one of my Senate colleagues from South Texas that I spoke to this morning and mentioned that I was going to speak here today, Senator Zaffirini told me that she once read a statistic that 90% of the people who have graduated, like you graduates today, don't recall the name of the commencement speaker. And so she said, don't put a whole lot of effort into it and don't talk too long because they won't remember your name. And so I said, surely, Senator Zaffirini, that cannot be true. She said, oh no, Senator Ellis, I know it's true. I gave a speech a couple years ago and then I decided to do a little survey. I went to lunch and I walked to a table adjacent to me and I asked all of the people eating at that table, do you remember the name of the person who gave the commencement address when you graduated? And 9 out of 10 of them couldn't recall the name. So then her husband asked, well, when did you graduate? They said this morning. I also want to thank Renee Byers for the outstanding job that she did during the interim of leading this great institution. Renee, stand up, give her another warm round of applause. I want to thank all of your trustees, all of them for the great job that they have done, because let me tell you, community college education is the gateway for most people to end up achieving the American dream. So thank your trustees. Two other thank yous I want you to give. You might not remember my name after you go to lunch late on the day after dinner, but I hope you will remember this fact. You are graduating from a community college 60 years after the historic Brown versus Board of Education decision. And you ought to take the time, as I did this morning, even if you don't want to read it all, just go back and read what's in Wikipedia. And think about how courageous Linda Brown was and those other 3rd grade students in Topeka, Kansas, to take on the awesome power of state government, Supreme Court previous rulings, to strike down that notion of separate but equal. You ought to thank Linda Brown and all of those plaintiffs, and don't ever forget that you are graduating 60 years after the Supreme Court said that that kind of hateful behavior wouldn't be tolerated. Now here's the last thank you. You didn't get here alone. Everybody in this audience has somebody in the perimeter, a parent, a sister, a brother, a loved one that helped you get to where you are. So you stand up right now. You need to wake up anyway and thank somebody for helping you get to where you are today. All right, don't go overboard. That's enough. Thank them with that job as well, and thank them in person. It's always obligatory to say congratulations to you, so okay, congratulations, you graduated. You're gonna go into various challenges when you leave here today. I just wanna talk about a few members of your class. Deliska Johnson will be receiving her GED certificate today. Deliska is a dedicated grandmother of 12, as in 1, 2. And a great-grandmother of 4. She put her educational challenges on hold while she cared for her family. For her, receiving her GED today is fulfilling a 28-year quest to get this certificate. Diana or Deanna Allday will use this degree as a stepping stone to get another degree. She's a single mother of 3. She maintained a 4.0 GPA while raising her daughters and working at a major law firm. Her dream is to continue her education and eventually enter the field of social work. Last one, Emily Neal. Her plan was on entering the workforce for the first time. When she leaves here today, Emily plans on living her dream and being a successful designer. There are 1,000 stories of people who are dressed in this regalia today on what you plan to do. Just like other people who have graduated from community colleges, you ought to be proud of your ambition. To go on and graduate from another university, to go and get a degree, whatever you choose to do, make no mistake about it, you got a bright future ahead of you. But I want to stress to you that now the time of being graded based on how you do on an exam in statistics, in English, in history, in health education is over with. The challenge for you in life now won't be based on whether you get an A, B, or C, or something we won't talk about on an exam. But you'll still be graded by what you do every day. I want you to remember that life is not a series of just getting a pass or a fail. Life is a series of challenges. And every day won't be an exciting day where people are clapping, patting you on the back, and congratulating you like this day. Life will be full of mistakes that you're gonna make. And unlike when you took those exams and only you and the teacher knew about that score, and maybe your loved ones you shared it with, when you make a mistake, when you fail, and that is an option on a regular basis, it is something you will do. Oftentimes you're gonna do it in full view of everybody. That's part of what life is about. Many times you're gonna fall flat on your aspirin. And the real issue is whether or not you learn from the mistakes that you make. But always remember, there's always a tomorrow and things will get better. Failure has happened to the best of us on this stage or in this world. The guy that worked up the invention so we'd have these lights in here today, Thomas Edison. His teachers told him, and I quote, "You are too stupid to learn anything." The great artist Vincent van Gogh sold one painting, only one painting while he was alive. And now that he's gone, most of us cannot afford any of his paintings. Steve Jobs got fired from Apple. You are not alone. You're gonna make mistakes, and the question is how you benefit from them. One of the candidates for governor, I'm gonna mention both, I'm gonna be bipartisan. The current Democratic nominee, Wendy Davis, for governor of Texas, was on her way to becoming a single mother at age 19, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. She didn't give up. Instead, she enrolled in a local community college in Tarrant County. eventually transferred to Texas Christian University and became the first person in her family to earn a bachelor's degree. She went on to the Harvard University Law School, became a practicing attorney, served on the city council in Fort Worth, Texas, and went on to the Texas State Senate. Greg Abbott, the current Republican governor of Texas, also overcame challenges. Shortly after receiving his law degree, Greg Abbott, after graduating from Vanderbilt University, was partially paralyzed by jogging and a tree falling on him. He didn't throw in the towel, but he went on to be elected state district judge to the Texas Supreme Court and is currently our Attorney General of Texas. I want you to remember this. An act of success doesn't make one successful, and an act of failure does not make somebody a failure. In fact, it's your response to failure that will determine how successful you will be. Life is easy when everything is going perfectly. It's so easy when everything is just flawless. But it's when life kicks you down and you figure out how to get back up, that's when you use this degree that you are getting today. And I want to remind you, and I want you to think about it as you reflect on everything you do as you celebrate today. The real challenge for you is how you learn from adversity. I can remember some 20 years ago, I was a freshman at Xavier University in New Orleans. Somebody invited me over for barbecue. I hated the food in the dormitory, so I didn't eat breakfast, I didn't eat lunch. If you're from Sunnyside, Houston, like I am, when people invite you over for barbecue and they tell you to show up at 1 o'clock, you show up to eat. In New Orleans, when I got there at 1 o'clock, they fired up the pit. So it was 2 hours later before we could eat. Back then, before I learned the errors of my ways, I used to drink something called Brass Monkey. That's mainly a lot of sugar and red syrup and scotch. And then I was so tired of waiting for the barbecue, I decided to drink a scotch, not that fancy stuff that they tell me you all drink now, not J&B, it was something called teacher's scotch. For some reason, I thought I'd learned something. I was sloppy drunk, no mistake about it. I stayed in my dorm room. When I got back to the dormitory, I never ate for 2 days. And then when I came out of the dormitory, they called me in to meet with the dean of students. And I'll never forget what Dean Granger said. Mr. Ellis, what are you majoring in? I said, political science. He said, it ought to be drama, because you ought to get an Academy Award for that performance you put on in front of these nuns. And then he said, as God is my witness, before I retire as dean of students at this university, I'm going to put you out of this university. As soon as an opportunity came my way to get out of Xavier and take a scholarship to get back to Houston to Texas Southern, I took it. Because every time I saw Dean Granger, he just pointed that finger at me like they do in The Color Purple. And I knew he was waiting for me to trip up, waiting for me to fail. I learned a valuable lesson. From Labor Day 1973, I cannot hold alcohol. So you know what? I haven't had a drop of liquor since Labor Day of 1972. Now, I share that story with you to give you this simple caveat and hope that you will remember it. You are going to mess up. I hope you didn't mess up on something this morning before you got here. But you're going to mess up despite the great education that these educators sitting behind me have given you. You are going to make major mistakes despite all of the support of the family members and loved ones who have helped you get to where you are today. The real challenge is, do you learn? Do you benefit from the mistakes that you made? I want to encourage you to do that. And I want to close on this note. Just as Linda Brown, a third-year-old student, faced hateful experiences and helped change the complexion of education in her state and in this country, and help us become the beacon for what equality ought to be like in the rest of the world. At the end of the day, when you're closer to my age instead of the age you are now, and you are maybe looking at winding down your career, I'm 60. I clearly have more years behind me than I have in front of me. At the end of the day, I don't think you're going to really focus so much on how much money you made. You're going to focus on the time that you spent with loved ones. You're going to focus on the reputation that you developed during your lifetime. At the end of the day, you're going to focus on how you will be remembered. As you travel this path to get to the end of your road, I hope you think about Linda Brown and those other third-grade students, those plaintiffs in that lawsuit. When you have an opportunity to impact a quality of life for people beyond those in your household, in your immediate family, will you rise to the occasion like those third-grade students did? You make sure when you get out of here, you vote for whoever you want to vote for. You get active in your community. You give some money back to this community college that made it possible for you to get this degree you're going to get today. You figure out how you can be inspired by the life of those children in Brown versus the Board of Education. Thank you, congratulations, and have a great life.